The grocery store was its usual collage of noise and humanity. The click of cartwheels, the chirp of scanners, and that blend of floor cleaner and fried deli chicken that never quite left the air. For me, it was the last stop before home. 2 gallons of 2% milk for my boy Leo, who drank the stuff like other kids drank soda, and a small bouquet of garage sale carnations for Tammy, because she'd had a long week and I knew flowers on the table would make her smile. Milk and flowers, 8 and change for a little bit apiece. I was next in the 10 items or less lane, 1 beep from freedom when it happened. The sound came first, the squeak thump of a wounded shopping cart barreling down the aisle, the kind pushed by someone convinced the rules belonged to everyone but her. Then came the impact, an avalanche of pink fabric and white cardigan muscling ahead of me without a word. The cart rammed the divider that separated my little order from the empty conveyor belt. The mountain inside that thing could have supplied a bunker. Kale, imported cheese, gluten-free crackers, enough sparkling water to hydrate an army of influencers. The cashier, a weary teenager whose name tag said Brenda, froze mid-scan, caught between corporate politeness and self-preservation. I took a slow breath, trying to throttle the tightening knot in my chest. "Ma'am," I said evenly, nodding toward the glowing red sign overhead. 10 items or less. You've got more than 10. She gave me a glance that traveled from my steel-toed boots to my faded company t-shirt and stopped somewhere short of respect. Then she smiled, the kind of smile that says, "I've already decided you don't matter." "I'm in a hurry," she said, and turned back to the belt. A box of quinoa pasta hit the rubber with a thud. Her elbow clipped my milk. I snatched it before it fell. Oops, no apology. Just another smirk. Then, locking eyes with me, she said, "You gonna cry about it?" That did it. The anger that had been simmering under the skin flared to life, hot and familiar. I could feel my pulse in my neck. For a second, every instinct screamed to tell her exactly what I thought, loud enough for the entire store to hear. Then my phone buzzed. Quinn Foreman, my boss. The name alone was enough to knock the heat out of me. I swiped. "Freeman. Mike," he said, voice gravel thick with fatigue. "Big pour downtown Saturday. Double time all weekend if you want it." I almost smiled. Double time meant the mortgage, Leo's cleats, dinner out with Tammy where we didn't have to pretend the right side of the menu didn't exist. "I'm in," I said. "Good," he answered. Then his tone dropped. "Listen close. The client's connected, inspectors, permits, the whole mess. That means no attitudes, no drama. I heard about that dust-up with the delivery driver last month. One more mess before Saturday and the shift goes to Johnson. You keep your nose clean, Mike. No trouble." The call ended. 2 words lingered like a brand. No trouble. When I looked up, the woman, Karen Connor, though I didn't know her name yet, was watching me. She'd heard enough to know she had me cornered. Her eyebrows lifted, amusement flickering in her eyes. "Problem?" she asked, voice dripping with mock concern. My jaw tightened until it ached. The overtime that could breathe life into our budget dangled by a thread, and she was the one holding the scissors. I could stand up for myself, lose my temper, and watch that double time vanish. Or I could shut up, swallow the pride, and keep Leo's milk steady for another month. She turned away, certain she'd won, and began piling overpriced eggs and avocado oil onto the belt. My phone felt like an anchor in my hand. I took a breath heavy enough to hurt and told myself the same thing Tammy would have said. Just breathe. Don't give her the satisfaction. A cry cut through before I could finish the thought. Behind Karen, a young mother was trying to navigate a stroller through the tight walkway created by that wall of groceries. She looked worse than I felt. Hollow-eyed, hands shaking, exhaustion clinging to her like a second uniform. The baby in the stroller, tiny and peaceful in a blue onesie, snored softly while she murmured apologies to everyone in sight. Her front wheel snagged. Just a little, on the edge of Karen's overloaded cart. The metal scraped, the cart rocked, and a fancy glass jar perched on top. Pickles or olives, maybe. Something expensive enough to feel important, toppled and exploded on the floor. The sharp crack of glass made everyone flinch. The smell of vinegar bit the air. The baby jolted awake and began to wail, a sound full of terror and confusion that cut straight through the background noise of the store. The mother gasped, mortified. I'm so sorry," she stammered, fumbling with the stroller. Karen snapped around. Fury twisted her face, but her eyes found the wrong target. Not the mother, me. Her finger shot out. "Assault!" she screamed, voice piercing and high. "He pushed my cart. He's attacking me! He scared that baby!" The store went dead silent, except for the baby's crying and the distant beep of another lane. Heads turned. People craned necks. Phones lifted like periscopes searching for drama. For a moment, I didn't even move. The accusation hit like a physical thing. Assault? I hadn't taken one step. One hand still held my phone. The other hung useless at my side. Every cell in my body wanted to shout her down, to confront the insanity right then. But Quinn's warning thudded again in my skull. No trouble, Mike, no trouble. My mouth opened, then closed. The young mother looked ready to cry, caught between panic and guilt. The baby's screams rising and falling in helpless waves. Forget Karen. Forget the phones pointed my way. I took one step forward, not toward her, but toward them. Slowly. Open hands, calm. It's okay, I said to the mother over the noise. Here, your wheel's stuck. I crouched, easing the stroller wheel free where it had snagged on the cart. The motion settled the baby just enough to trade the shrieks for small, hiccuping sobs. Behind me, Karen sputtered. Don't you touch! A manager appeared out of nowhere. Radio clipped to his belt, eyes darting from the broken jar to Karen's red face. What's going on here? He attacked me, she said, voice trembling for effect. He slammed my cart on purpose. There's a baby involved. The manager looked at me, then at the scene. The mess of glass, the stroller, the exhausted mother. Ma'am, he said gently, turning to the mother. What actually happened? Her answer was small but steady. My wheel caught her cart. That's all. He didn't touch anyone. He was helping. Karen froze, her mouth still half open, caught mid-performance. A pulse of heat crept up her neck. That's not— You're lying! The manager held up a hand. We have cameras, he said, voice turning iron flat. Let's verify before we make any more accusations. He gestured toward security. Already rolling footage, and just like that, the power drained from her face. By the time Brenda finished ringing me up, the crowd had started to drift back to their errands, murmuring and shaking their heads. The baby had quieted. The mother whispered another thank you before slipping away down an aisle lined with cereal boxes. Karen was still arguing in hushed, furious tones near customer service when I walked out with my milk and flowers. 2 weeks later, I swung by that same store after a shift to grab sandwiches for the crew. Down the dairy aisle, wearing a bright orange vest and a name tag that looked handwritten, stood Karen Connor, stacking milk jugs into the cooler. She saw me, and for a moment her jaw twitched, either in shame or anger. I just smiled politely, pushing my cart past her like she didn't matter. 10 items or less. Milk, flowers, quiet victory. The only sound left was the steady hum of the cooler and, finally, my own sense of peace restored. It's okay, I say to the mom, my voice low and calm, a stark contrast to Karen's shrieking. He's just startled. It was an accident. The mother gives me a tiny, grateful nod, her eyes filled with tears as she tries to soothe her child. But my small act of kindness is like gasoline on Karen's fire. Get away from them, she screeches, moving to put herself between me and the stroller. You see, he's going after the baby now. Somebody called the police. He assaulted me. The word hangs in the air. Ugly and dangerous. It's a word that can change your life. A word that sticks. And I'm standing there, a big rough-looking guy in a dirty work shirt, while a well-dressed woman accuses me of violence in front of a dozen witnesses. It's a nightmare scenario. And I know with a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach that no matter what the truth is, this is exactly the kind of trouble Quinn was talking about. The manager, a kid who looks like he's maybe 25, comes jogging over. His name tag says Dave, and his face is pale with the kind of panic that only a retail manager facing a public disturbance can truly understand. He's new but trained. Ispat, the laminated policy card clenched in his fist. He's wearing a slightly too large blue polo shirt with the Super Save logo, and he's wringing his hands. Ma'am, what seems to be the problem here? He asks, his voice cracking a little. He's looking at Karen because she's the one making the most noise. And that's rule number 1 in the retail handbook. Deal with the loudest person first. The problem, Karen says, her voice shaking with theatrical rage, is that this thug? She gestures at me with a flick of her wrist like I'm a piece of garbage. Assaulted me. He shoved my cart, broke my property, and terrified this poor woman and her child. Dave looks at me, then at the crying baby, then at the puddle of pickle juice and shattered glass on the floor. His eyes are wide. He's clearly out of his depth. He's seeing lawsuits and corporate incident reports dancing in his head. I hold up my hands, palms out, the universal sign for, I'm not a threat. That's not what happened, I say, keeping my voice as steady as I can. Her cart was blocking the aisle. This young lady's stroller accidentally bumped it. It was an accident. The young mother, still trying to comfort her baby, nods vigorously. He's right, she says, her voice small but clear. It was my fault. I'm so sorry, Karen scoffs, waving a dismissive hand. Oh, please. He probably intimidated her into saying that. Look at him. Dave looks at me again, and I can see the calculation in his eyes. I'm a big guy covered in the grime of a construction site. She's all put together suburban mom. He's not thinking about justice. He's thinking about liability. He pulls a walkie-talkie from his belt. Brenda, shut down your light, he says, his voice now firm. All business. The red light above our lane clicks off. A collective groan goes through the line behind us. We are now officially a scene. Quinn, Dave says into the radio, his voice low. I need you at checkout 7, code 3. Store short for urgent front-end assist. A moment later, a man I recognize as the store's lost prevention officer walks over. He's not a security guard in a uniform. He's just a guy in a plain gray polo shirt and slacks, but he moves with a quiet authority that the manager lacks. His name is Quinn, just like my foreman. A coincidence that feels like a bad joke from the universe. He doesn't look at any of us at first. His eyes go up to the ceiling. He's spotting the cameras. He scans the area, his gaze taking in the shattered jar, the position of the cart, the stroller. Me. He's a professional, and he's not interested in the drama. He's interested in the facts. I feel a tiny spark of hope. The camera, the little black dome mounted on the ceiling right above us. It saw everything. It's my only witness that can't be intimidated or ignored. I pull out my phone again, my hands shaking slightly. I need to talk to Tammy. She's my calm line when the world goes loud. She's the calm one, the smart one. She'll know what to do. I dial her number, turning slightly away from the scene for a sliver of privacy. She answers on the second ring. Hey honey, everything okay? You've been gone a while. Tam, listen to me, I say, keeping my voice low. I'm at the super safe. There's a situation. I quickly explain everything that happened. The line cutter, the milk jug, the foreman's call, the stroller, the pickles, the screaming. I tell her about the manager and the loss prevention guy. I tell her I haven't done anything, haven't raised my voice, haven't even moved. Her end of the line is silent for a moment. I can hear her processing, her quick mind putting the pieces together. Okay, Michael, she says, her voice a lifeline of calm in my sea of panic. You're doing the right thing. Do not lose your temper. Do not engage with her. Let them do their jobs. The camera saw what happened. The truth is on your side. Her voice is so steady it grounds me. Just keep breathing. Let them look at the video. Don't say anything. You don't have to. Just the facts. I'm here. Just stay on the line if you need to. I nod even though she can't see me. Okay. Quinn turns to the manager. Let's go to the office and review the footage from camera C7, he says. He finally looks at me, then at Karen. You'll both need to wait here. Karen crosses her arms, a triumphant smirk on her face. She thinks the video will prove her right. She thinks her story, told loudly and with enough righteous anger, is the truth. But I'm looking up at that little black dome on the ceiling, my silent, impartial witness. She has no idea what's coming. While the manager and the loss prevention guy are gone, a tense silence settles over our little corner of the store. The baby has finally quieted down to a few hiccuping sobs, and the young mother is rocking him gently, avoiding everyone's eyes. Karen is tapping her foot impatiently, occasionally glaring at me as if I'm personally responsible for this delay. Brenda, the cashier, is just standing there looking like she'd rather be anywhere else on earth. Another employee comes over with a dustpan and a mop to clean up the pickle apocalypse. The smell of vinegar is sharp and overwhelming. My mind is racing. Not rubble. Keep your nose clean. Quinn words are on a loop in my head. I've followed the rules so far. I've been calm. I've been quiet. But the injustice of it all is eating me alive. This woman with her smug entitlement tried to ruin my life over a jar of pickles. And she's standing there like she's the victim. I can't punch her. I can't yell at her. But I'll be damned if I'm going to let her just walk away from this scot-free. After what feels like an eternity, Dave and Marcus return. The look on Dave's face is completely different. The panic is gone, replaced by a weary resignation. He looks embarrassed. Quinn is expressionless as always. Ma'am, Dave says, addressing Karen directly. We've reviewed the security footage. It's clear that the incident with the cart was an accident caused by the stroller and that this gentleman, he gestures to me, had no physical contact with you or your property at any time. The smirk on Karen's face vanishes, replaced by a flash of disbelief, then anger. What? That's ridiculous. Your camera must be broken. I know what I saw. He threatened me. Quinn takes a small step forward. The video is perfectly clear, ma'am, and a customer clip covers audio. We have the entire incident recorded. He turns to me. Sir, you are free to complete your purchase. We apologize for the delay. Then he looks at the young mother. And ma'am, don't worry about the broken jar. It was an accident. He's handling it by the book. De-escalate, separate, and move on. But I'm not ready to move on. Not yet. Actually, I say, stepping back up to the checkout counter. I believe this woman was next in line. She was in such a hurry after all. Please ring her up first. Dave looks surprised but relieved to be moving things along. Of course. Karen, fuming but cornered, begins slamming her items onto the belt again. And that's when I see my opening. Not to cause trouble, but to enforce the rules. Thepity, beautiful, infuriating rules. As Brenda starts scanning the mountain of groceries, I lean forward politely. "Excuse me, Brenda," I say, reading her name tag. "I don't think that bunch of organic kale has a price tag on it. You'll probably need to get a price check on that." Brenda sigh, her shoulders slumping. Karen shoots me a look that could curdle milk. "It's $5.99, she snaps. "I'm sure it is," I say with a placid smile. "But store policy is to verify the price if it doesn't scan, right?" I look at Dave, the manager. He's strapped. "I'm just being a helpful customer." He nods reluctantly. "Brenda, call for a price check on the kale." A voice crackles over the store's intercom system, and the wait begins. 1 minute, 2 minutes. The line behind us is growing again, and the grumbling is audible. Finally, a stockboy comes back with the price, $5.99, just as she said. Karen gives me a triumphant glare. I just smile. Next, she hands Brenda a stack of coupons. Brenda scans the first one, beep, it works. The second one, beep, it works. The third one makes a dull, negative bonk sound. "It's not taking this one," Brenda says. "Well, make it work," Karen demands. "It's for 2 off that cereal." "I'm sorry, ma'am, but it says here the coupon expired yesterday," Brenda explains, pointing to the fine print. I lean in again, feigning concern. You know, sometimes the scanners can be finicky. Maybe if you try entering the code manually. It's important to make sure the customer gets all the savings she's entitled to. I give Dave another innocent look. He looks like he wants to strangle me. But again, I'm just being a helpful, rule-abiding citizen. Brenda spends another minute slowly typing in the long string of numbers, only to get the same rejection. Karen is practically vibrating with rage. Her quick trip to the store is now entering its 20th minute. All of it spent in this one checkout lane. As Brenda finally finishes scanning the last item, a bag of artisanal coffee, I deliver the final blow. "Oh, you know what?" I say, looking at her cart with a thoughtful expression. "I think I saw you put my milk in your cart by mistake. The 2%. She stares at me bewildered. "I did not. Are you sure?" I ask, my voice full of polite concern. "Could you just check, Brenda? If it's in there, you'll need to void that item off her bill. It's mine after all." The sheer unadulterated gall of my request hangs in the air. It's a complete lie, a fabrication born of pure, distilled spite, but it's couched in the language of customer service and store policy. Karen, sputtering with indignation, has to watch as Brenda avoids the non-existent milk, rescans a few things to be sure, and then finally, painstakingly completes the transaction. Her face is a thundercloud. She paid for her groceries, but I had made her pay in time and frustration without breaking store policy. And as she snatched her receipt from the machine, I knew this wasn't over. People like her don't just lose gracefully. They find another way to cheat. Her total was over $200. A mountain of groceries for a woman who couldn't be bothered to use a regular checkout lane. She bags her own items with a furious, jerky energy, stuffing bread on top of tomatoes and crushing a bag of potato chips in her haste. I just stand there holding my milk and flowers, watching the show with a deep, quiet satisfaction. She's fuming. Her plan for a quick rule-breaking trip has turned into a public, drawn-out ordeal. She's been proven a liar by the video and then forced to endure a checkout process that felt like it was happening in slow motion. All orchestrated by me, the guy she dismissed as a nobody. She finishes bagging, shoves everything back into her cart, and then she looks around. The main entrance, where the registers are, has a long line of people waiting to exit. It's the Tuesday night rush. She glances to her left down the wide aisle that runs along the front of the store, and then she sees it. About 30 feet away, there's a set of double doors with a long horizontal push bar. Above it, a red sign glows with the words, "Emergency exit only." Alarm will sound. I see the idea form in her eyes. I can practically read her mind. Forget this. Forget the line. I'm important. I'm leaving. She thinks the sign is a bluff, a suggestion, something that applies to other people but not to her. She gives me one last withering glare, a look that's supposed to put me in my place. And then she pivots her cart and makes Abilene for the emergency exit. A few people in line notice, their conversations faltering as they watch her. Dave, the manager, is busy talking to the young mother, probably giving her a gift card for her trouble, and he doesn't see it. He's comping a gift card for the mom and filling the incident report. Floor lead Kendra is supposed to watch the doors, but she's helping at self-check account. Quinn is walking back toward his office. Only I see what's about to happen. I could shout. I could warn somebody, but I don't. I just stand there and wait. This is a lesson she needs to learn for herself. She reaches the doors and without a moment's hesitation shoves the push bar with her hip. The result is not the loud blaring siren she probably expected, if she expected anything at all. Instead, it's a series of sharp, high-pitched chirps. Chirp, chirp, chirp. It's not deafening, but it's persistent and impossible to ignore. It's the sound of a rule being broken, and the doors don't swing open. Instead, a heavy magnetic lock engages with a solid thunk. The doors hold fast. She pushes again, harder this time, her shoulder against the metal. The doors don't budge. Maglock holds. Those doors only open for fire panel or key. Maintenance will reset the panel before closing. The chirping continues. Our relentless electronic scolding. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Now everyone is watching. The quiet murmurs in the checkout lines turn into open stares. People stop what they're doing. The sound has drawn the attention of the entire front end of the store. Karen is trapped in a perfect little bubble of her own creation. She's standing at a locked emergency exit that she tried to use as her personal shortcut with a cart full of paid-for groceries, while an alarm announces her foolishness to the world. Marcus materializes at her side so quickly it's like he teleported. "Ma'am," he says, his voice dangerously calm, "that is an emergency exit. It is not for public use." Karen whirls on him, her face flushed a blotchy, furious red. "This is ridiculous. I'm a paying customer. I just want to leave." "Open this door," she demands, gesturing at the immovable doors. "The main exit is right over there," Marcus says, pointing back toward the registers. "You'll have to go that way like everyone else." The crowd is now fully invested. A few people have their phones out, though they're trying to be subtle about it. The scene is just too bizarre to ignore. A well-dressed woman, in a shouting match with store security over her God-given right to use an emergency exit. She has been publicly proven wrong, publicly delayed, and now publicly thwarted. Her entitlement has run headfirst into a magnetic lock and an unflappable loss prevention officer. For a moment, she just stands there, defeated. The chirping alarm a soundtrack to her humiliation. She looks at the crowd of staring faces, at the long line she tried to avoid, and at the locked doors that represent the final undeniable proof that the rules, in fact, do apply to her. I knew, watching the fury build in her eyes, that she had one more move left in her, and it was going to be an ugly one. Defeated and cornered, Karen finally gives up on the emergency door. She wrenches her cart around with a loud metallic screech and starts pushing it back toward the main entrance. Her face a mask of thunderous rage. The chirping alarm finally stops, plunging the front of the store back into a tense quiet. But the damage is done. Everyone is still staring at her. She's the center of attention, the villain in a story that has played out for everyone to see. As she passes the checkout lines, she catches sight of a teenager standing near a display of magazines. He's maybe 16 with a shaggy haircut and a hoodie, and he's holding his phone up clearly and obviously recording her. He's not trying to hide it. He's got a little smirk on his face, the kind of look that says he knows he's capturing gold for his social media feed. For Karen, who has just endured a series of public humiliations, this is the final straw. All her pent-up frustration and rage finds a new target. "What do you think you're doing?" she snarls, marching right up to him. "You stop that. You have no right to record me. Give me that phone." The teenager, to his credit, doesn't flinch. He just lowers the phone slightly. "It's a public place, lady," he says, his voice calm. "Marcus says he can film. Store policy allows recording in public-facing areas if it doesn't block traffic." This simple statement of fact seems to break something inside her. She lets out a sound that's halfway between a scream and a sob, and lunges for his phone, her hand swatting at it like she's trying to kill a fly. I said, "Give it to me." The kid stumbles back, pulling his phone to his chest. Her hand connects with his arm. Not hard, but it's definitely contact. It's a clumsy, desperate shove. A line has been crossed. This is no longer just a verbal dispute or a case of breaking store rules. This is physical. Quinn is on her in a second. He guides her forearm, firm but controlled, and creates space. "Ma'am, that's enough. You need to calm down right now." He positions himself between Karen and the teenager, creating a physical barrier. "You need to leave the store now." I watch all of this unfold from the relative safety of my checkout lane. My heart is pounding. My every instinct is to wade in to make sure the kid is okay, to put myself between him and this unhinged woman. But Quinn, the foreman's voice, is a ghost in my ear. No trouble, no fighting. Getting involved physically is the one thing I absolutely cannot do. So, I do the hardest thing I've ever had to do in a situation like this. I stay put. I make a conscious, deliberate show of not moving. I plant my feet, cross my arms, and become a statue. Statues don't lose overtime. I make sure my hands are visible, that my posture is non-threatening. I am a spectator. It kills me to do it, tossed by when someone is being physically aggressive, but my family's financial security is on the line. I have to trust that Quinn has it under control. The manager, Dave, is on his walkie-talkie again, his voice urgent and quiet. I can't hear what he's saying, but I have a pretty good idea. A moment later, I see them. Two uniformed police officers walking through the main entrance, their expressions all business. Finally, referees. I tug my red shirt straight. She smooths her white sweater. The arrival of the police changes the entire atmosphere. It's no longer a store matter. The sight of the uniforms, the radios crackling on their belts, makes everything real and serious. Karen seems to shrink a little when she sees them. The fight drains out of her, replaced by a new kind of theatricality. The tearful victim. "Officers, thank God," she says, her voice suddenly trembling. "This has been the most horrible experience of my life. I've been harassed, and this man," she points a shaky finger at me, "assaulted me earlier, and now this boy was filming me, and the store security just manhandled me." She's spinning a web of lies so fast it's dizzying, trying to paint herself as the one who has been wronged from the very beginning. The officers listen patiently, their faces unreadable. One of them turns to me. "Sir, what's your side of the story?" I take a breath, channeling Tammy's calm. "I've been standing right here for the last 10 minutes, I say, my voice level. I didn't touch anyone. The store has the entire thing on video." I look over at Quinn, who gives a subtle nod to the officers. The truth is already on tape. The teenager, seeing his opportunity, speaks up. "She tried to grab my phone and she pushed me," he says, showing the officers the video he took. As the police begin to sort through the mess, separating witnesses and taking statements, I finally pay for my milk and flowers. The total is $842. I walk out of the store, the automatic doors sliding open without a fuss. But as I step out into the cool night air, I know this isn't over. A woman like that, a woman who lies that easily, doesn't just give up. She'll find a new battlefield. And I had a sinking feeling it was going to be a lot closer to home. I got home late, feeling like I'd just gone 10 rounds with a heavyweight boxer. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving behind a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. Tammy was waiting up for me in the living room. I put the carnations in a vase on the table, and she gave me a long hug. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft. I just nodded and told her the whole sordid story, from the emergency exit to the cops showing up. She listened patiently, her expression growing more and more concerned. We talked for a while, and I finally started to feel the tension drain out of me. I went to bed feeling like the worst was over. I was wrong. The next morning, as I was getting ready for work, Tammy came into the bedroom holding her tablet, a grim look on her face. "You need to see this," she said. She showed me the screen. It was our local community's homeowners association page on social media. And there at the top of the feed was a long rambling post from Karen Connor. It was a masterpiece of fiction. She had posted a blurry photo she must have taken of my back as I was leaving the store. The post was a sob story about a terrifying encounter at the Super Safe. She described being verbally abused and physically threatened by a large aggressive construction worker for no reason at all. She claimed I had deliberately shoved her cart, endangering a nearby baby, and that I had organized a mob of teenagers to film and harass her. She painted herself as a terrified mother, just trying to buy groceries for her family and me, as a violent, unstable menace to the community. My name, Michael Freeman, was right there in black and white. The comment section was already a dumpster fire. A few people who knew her were offering sympathy. "That's horrible, Karen. I hope you're okay. Someone should do something about people like him." But what really made my stomach turn were the comments from people I didn't know. People who lived in my neighborhood who were eating up herstory. "Is this the guy who lives on Elm Street? We need to keep our kids away from him." My hands started to shake with rage. This wasn't just about a stupid argument in a store anymore. She was trying to ruin my reputation, to turn my own neighbors against me, to threaten my family's sense of safety in our own home. "That's it," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "I'm going to go over there." Tammy put a hand on my arm. "No, you're not," she said, her voice firm but calm. "You're not going to do anything that makes you look like the guy she's describing in that post. We are not going to fight her in the mud. We're going to fight her with facts." And just like that, my brilliant, steady Tammy went into action. She became a general commanding a digital army. "Okay," she said, pulling up a chair. "First things first, your receipt. What was the exact time you checked out?" I found the crumpled receipt in my wallet. 9:04 p.m. "Okay," she said, typing. "That's our anchor." She then wrote a calm, clear, and factual response to Karen's post. She didn't call Karen a liar. She didn't get emotional. She just laid out the facts. My husband, Michael Freeman, was at the Super Save last night. According to his receipt, he checked out at 9:14 p.m. He was the subject of a number of false accusations, all of which were disproven by the store's own security footage, which was reviewed by store management and the Riverside Police Department. If anyone has questions, they should direct them to the Super Save manager. It was a simple, powerful statement, and it was just the beginning. Tammy is smarter with people than I'll ever be. She remembered the young mother with the stroller, She didn't know her name, but she put out a message on the Neighborhood Mothers group page. Were you at the Super Save last night around 900 p.m.? Did you witness an incident at the express checkout? Within an hour, she got a response. The young mother, her name was Sarah, had seen the HOA post and was horrified. She immediately wrote her own comment, backing up our side of the story completely. I was there. My stroller accidentally bumped her cart. It was my fault. Michael was a perfect gentleman and even tried to help. Everything Karen Connor wrote is a lie. That was a huge blow to Karen's narrative. But Tammy wasn't done. Who else do we know who might have been there? She asked. And then it hit me. Our neighbor Nate, a retired guy who was obsessed with his car, told me he was going to the auto parts store next to the Super Save last night. I gave him a call. Nate, I said, quick question. Did you happen to be at the shopping center last night around 9? Sure did, Mike, he said. Had to get a new air filter. Why? You have one of those dash cams in your car, right? I asked, a sliver of hope in my voice. Best stone money can buy, he said proudly. Records front and back, even when the car's parked. My heart leaped. Nate, I need a massive favor. An hour later, Nate was at our house with his laptop. And there it was, crystal clear footage from his dash cam, which was parked facing the front of the Super Save. Timestamp 9:06 p.m. in the corner. Perfect. It showed Karen Connor pulling into a handicap spot without a placard and marching into the store. And more importantly, it showed her storming out later, followed by the police. The timestamp on the video corroborated our timeline perfectly. Tammy posted the video clip to the HOA page. The tide, which had been turning with Sarah's testimony, was now a tsunami of facts. Receipt timestamps, eyewitness accounts, dash cam footage. Karen's carefully constructed narrative of victimhood was being systematically dismantled piece by piece in front of the entire neighborhood. Her lies were no match for the simple, verifiable truth. The online fallout was swift and brutal. Karen's post on the HOA page, once a source of sympathy for her, became a monument to her dishonesty. People started replying not just with support for me, but with their own stories about Karen Connor. It turned out she was the neighborhood's resident menace, notorious for frivolous complaints, aggressive driving, and a general sense of entitlement. The dashcam footage from neighbor Nate was the smoking gun. You could see her park in the handicap spot, and you could see her being escorted out by police. There was no spinning that the store itself was getting hammered. The Super Save's corporate social media pages were flooded with comments about the incident. People were angry that a customer could be falsely accused and harassed like that. The manager, Dave, was facing a public relations nightmare that was growing by the hour. He called me the next afternoon. His voice was strained. Mr. Freeman, he said, sounding exhausted. On behalf of Super Save, I want to formally apologize for what you experienced in our store. An apology is a start, I said, keeping my voice even. But a woman tried to ruin my reputation in my own neighborhood based on lies that started in your store. I understand, sir, he said. And we want to make it right. Corporate has authorized me to do whatever it takes. We're proposing a public community forum here at the store in the cafe area. We want to invite you, your wife, Miss Connor, and any other interested members of the community. We will show the complete security footage, plus a customer clip for audio. And we will have a representative from our legal department explain the relevant laws on false statements and harassment. We want to set the record straight publicly and transparently. Bystander faces will be blurred. Corporate wants the community to see we protect customers and staff. I was stunned. This was more than I ever expected. A public forum, a public showing of the evidence. It was a bold move, but it was the right one. We'll be there, I said. Tammy and I talked it over. It was a risk. It meant facing this woman again. It meant putting ourselves out there in front of everyone. But it was also an opportunity to kill her lies once and for all with the undeniable light of truth. The night of the forum, the Super Save Cafe was packed. They had set up rows of chairs and every single one was full. I saw neighbors, other parents from Leo's school, and a lot of curious strangers who had probably just been following the drama online. I saw the teenager who Karen had swatted at sitting with his parents. I saw the young mother, Sarah, holding her baby, her husband beside her. Tammy and I sat in the front row. I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. But Tammy reached over and squeezed my hand, her presence a solid, calming force. Then Karen Connor walked in. She wasn't wearing her expensive sweater. She was dressed down, trying to look meek and humbled, but her eyes were still full of defiance. She sat on the opposite side of the aisle alone. Dave, the manager, stood at a small podium next to a large television screen. He looked nervous, but determined. He started by apologizing again to me, to Sarah, and to the community for what had happened. He explained that the store had a zero-tolerance policy for harassment of any kind, whether from customers or employees. "We are here tonight to be transparent," he said. "We are going to show you the complete security footage from Lane 7 on the night in question. It's the full video. We'll pair it with a customer phone clip for audio." The screen flickered to life. First camera C7, then the teen's phone clip for audio, and there it was, a top-down view of the checkout lane. The quality was surprisingly clear. The whole room was silent as they watched, the events unfold exactly as they had happened. They saw Karen cut the line. They saw her knock over my milk. They heard her say, "You gonna cry about it?" They saw the stroller wheel snag the cart. A tiny, insignificant event, and then they heard it, her blood-curdling scream of assault. The room let out a collective gasp. Seeing it on video, knowing I hadn't moved a muscle, made her accusation seem even more shocking and malicious. The video continued. It showed me calmly steadying the stroller. It showed her failed attempt at the emergency exit, the chirping alarm filling the cafe. It showed her swatting at the teenager's phone. It was all there, undeniable and damning. When the video ended, the room was silent for a long moment. The evidence was overwhelming. Karen was staring at the floor, her face pale. Then, an elderly woman in the third row slowly got to her feet. She was holding a cane and she had a kind, wrinkled face. "I was there," she said, her voice frail but clear, carrying across the quiet room. "I was in line right behind that young man." She pointed a trembling finger at me. "I saw the whole thing with my own two eyes. He was a perfect gentleman. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't make a threat. He was polite and patient." She turned and pointed her cane at Karen. Was the one who was rude? She was loud. She was aggressive. And she told a bald-faced lie. "What happened to that man was a disgrace. Rules aren't heavy, dear. Pick one up." Her simple, honest words were more powerful than any lawyer's argument. She was the neighborhood grandma, the voice of reason and decency. Her testimony, combined with the DV video evidence, sealed Karen's fate. There was nowhere left for her to hide. The truth, in all its simple clarity, had finally cornered her. The community wasn't just watching a video. They were witnessing a public reckoning. After the grandmother spoke, a woman in a suit, the lawyer from SuperSav's corporate office, stepped up to the podium. She didn't speak with anger, but with a cold, professional finality that was far more devastating. She laid out the consequences not just for the store, but for Karen. First, she announced, her voice crisp and clear, effective immediately. "Miss Karen Connor is permanently banned from all SuperSave properties nationwide. If she enters any of our stores, she will be trespassing and the police will be called." A murmur went through the crowd. A lifetime ban. That was serious. Karen flinched but said nothing. Second, the lawyer continued. The Riverside Police Department was prepared to press charges for making false statements to police, which is a criminal offense. They were also considering charges for tampering with an emergency exit, and creating a safety hazard and assault for her physical contact with a minor. The teenager and his parents were watching, their faces grim. The lawyer paused, letting the weight of those potential charges sink in. However, she said in the spirit of restorative justice, so the fix teaches, not just punishes. And in consultation with the Freeman family and the family of the young man she accosted, an alternative has been reached. I hadn't known about this part. Tammy squeezed my hand again. I looked over at her and she gave me a small, knowing smile. She had been working behind the scenes, helping to shape this outcome. She didn't want revenge. She wanted justice, and justice she believed should be constructive. Ms. Connor has agreed to pay restitution to SuperSave for the significant staff hours and resources that were diverted to handle this incident, the lawyer explained. She will also be writing formal public letters of apology to Mr. Freeman and the other customers she harassed. The lawyer then looked directly at Karen. Finally, Ms. Connor has agreed to perform 20 hours of community service. That service will be performed here in this store. A wave of shock and surprise rippled through the audience. She will be responsible for restocking shelves and collecting shopping carts from the parking lot during peak business hours. 2 Saturdays, 10 to 8, plus 1 Thursday evening. She will wear a vest identifying her as a community service volunteer. The goal is not to humiliate, but to foster a sense of respect for the environment she disrupted and the employees whose work she belittled. It was brilliant. It was perfect. Not jail time. That would be too much. It was a direct, tangible consequence that fit the crime. She had acted like she was above the rules of the store, and now she would be forced to serve the store. She had looked down on the people who worked there, and now she would have to do their work in public as a penance for her behavior. It was humbling. It was just, later my foreman Quinn called me. He'd seen the story on the local news website. "Mike," he said, and I could hear the embarrassment in his voice. "I saw what happened. I'm sorry I doubted you. You handled that with a level head. That overtime is yours. You earned it." The relief that washed over me was immense. We had done it. We had weathered the storm. We had faced the lies and the accusations, and we had won. Not by yelling or fighting, but by being patient, by collecting facts, and by letting the truth do the heavy lifting. The community had seen the real Karen Connor, and she was now facing the consequences of her own actions. The quiet satisfaction of that victory was deeper and more lasting than any angry outburst could ever have been. A few weeks later, life had mostly returned to normal. The chatter on the HOA page died down. The overtime check from the downtown poor came through, and it was as beautiful as I had imagined. It felt good to pay the bills and still have a little left over, to feel that cushion, that breathing room that had been in jeopardy. That Saturday, Tammy, Leo, and I went to the Super Save to do our weekly shopping. It felt different walking in. A few people, strangers, nodded at me with a small smile of recognition. The cashier, Brenda, gave me a thumbs up as we passed her lane. It was a small thing, but it felt good. It felt like my name had been cleared in the one place where it had been so publicly dragged through the mud. As we were in the canned goods aisle looking for chicken noodle soup for Leo, I saw her. It was Karen. She was wearing a baggy, bright orange vest over her clothes with the words Community Service printed on the back and big black letters. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and her face was set in a permanent scowl. She was trying to stack cans of green beans onto a shelf, and she was terrible at it. The cans were crooked. The labels were facing every which way, and she had a look on her face like she was being forced to handle radioactive waste. People weren't pointing or laughing. They were mostly just ignoring her, walking their carts past her as if she were any other employee. And in a way, that was worse for her. She wasn't the center of a dramatic scene. She was just an anonymous person doing a menial job, rendered invisible by her orange vest. The quiet public nature of her punishment was its true power. There was no grand confrontation, no moment of triumphant gloating. There was just the quiet, grinding reality of her consequences. As we finished our shopping and headed to the checkout, I had an idea. It was a small thing, a petty thing maybe, but it felt right. I told Tammy and Leo to go on ahead, that I'd forgotten something. I walked back to the canned goods aisle. Karen was still there, struggling with a case of creamed corn. I walked up to the shelf she had just stocked. I didn't say a word to her. I didn't even look at her. I just reached out, picked up one of the cans of green beans she had misplaced, and turned it so the label faced perfectly forward. Then I picked up another and another, quickly and efficiently, arranging the cans into a neat, perfect row. The way a professional would do it. The way someone who respects the work would do it. I spent maybe 30 seconds tidying up her messy work. She stood frozen beside me, watching, the open case of corn still in her hands. I could feel her staring at me, but I never made eye contact. When the row was perfect, I took a step back, gave the shelf a satisfied look, and then turned and walked away without a single word. Turns out silence scans faster than any coupon. It was the last thing I ever needed to say to her. I had gotten my justice. I had kept my job. My family was safe and my name was cleared. This last little act wasn't about revenge. It was about closing the book. It was a quiet final statement on the importance of doing things the right way, of following the simple rules, of taking a little bit of pride in your work. Whether that work is finishing concrete or just stacking a can of beans. I caught up with Tammy and Leo at the front of the store. I took Leo's hand in mine and smiled at my wife. The automatic doors slid open for us and we walked out into the sunshine together. Our cart full, our weekend ahead of us, leaving the mess of the past few weeks behind us on a shelf in aisle.